Lagos Island in December had a way of pretending everybody was okay. The streets dressed up, strings of lights hanging over shop fronts, Christmas music blasting from speakers, hawkers shouting "Last, last. Oya by now." As if joy could be sold in nylon bags. The lagoon breeze carried the smell of roasted corn, suya smoke, and something sweeter, hope. Mercy loved that feeling. Even when her purse was light, even when her mother's medicine list sat on the table like a silent threat, even when Nipa took light at the worst times, December still made her believe life could change. She stood behind the small display table she shared with her friend Canine, arranging handmade hair clips and beaded scrunchies under the awning of a popular walkway near Marina. "Mercy, arrange it well," Canine teased, tapping a red bow. "It's Christmas. People will buy anything that looks like joy." Mercy chuckled. "Nah so. Even if the joy is plastic." Canine leaned in with a grin. "And your own joy. When are you seeing George?" At the mention of his name, Mercy's face softened, like the sun had stepped closer. "Later. He said we should meet near the lagoon side after his shift." Canine rolled her eyes dramatically. Lovebirds of Lagos Island. You people will soon start flying." Mercy just smiled, eyes dropping to her hands as she tied a ribbon. She didn't like speaking too loudly about her happiness. In Lagos, people could hear good news from far away and still find a way to spoil it. Besides, Mercy and George didn't have the kind of love that liked noise. Their love was quiet. It lived in small things, shared meat pie, long walks, and prayers whispered into one another's palms. George wasn't rich. Mercy wasn't rich. That was the first truth they agreed on. The second truth was harder. Their families were complicated. Mercy's father had died years ago, leaving her mother with only grit and a sewing machine that sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. Her mother, Mama Ifioma, was the kind of woman who could smile while carrying pain on her head like a basin. George's parents were alive but not really present. His father had walked out when he was young, and his mother moved to a different state chasing a job that never became stable. George ended up with an uncle who fed him, yes, but love in that house was rationed like kerosene. Still, somehow, Mercy and George found each other. They met 2 years earlier at a small cafe near Tafawa Balewa Square. Mercy had been selling hair accessories after school, trying to help her mother. George had stopped by for water after running errands for his uncle's logistics job. Mercy had dropped her basket by mistake, and he helped her pick everything up. He didn't flirt loudly. He didn't show off. He just asked calmly, "Are you okay?" That simple question stayed with Mercy for days. It felt like someone finally saw her as a person, not a hustling body. From there, friendship grew into love, slowly, carefully, like someone planting seed in hard ground and watering it daily. Now, Mercy was 19 and dreaming of studying business administration. George was 21, learning architecture drafting under a small firm that paid him based on the mood of the boss. Sometimes he came home with money. Sometimes he came home with only, "Sorry, next week." But he never came home without hope. That afternoon, Mercy packed her items, counted her small sales and sighed. The money was not enough to breathe properly. She tucked it into her purse anyway, then made her way to the lagoon side where George liked to sit. She found him there, sleeves rolled up, sweat clinging to his forehead like honest work. His smile appeared the moment he saw her, wide, warm, like Mercy was a good thing the world couldn't spoil. "You day shine," he said, standing to greet her. Mercy laughed. "Nah, you day make me shine." He offered her a sachet water. "Come. Sit." They sat side by side watching the water move. In the distance, boats cut across the lagoon like small ambitions. Mercy leaned her head lightly on his shoulder. "George," she said softly, "Christmas is close." "I know," he replied. "Island dawn already start forming rich." Mercy smiled, then her smile thinned. "I'm thinking about gifts." George turned to her. "Mercy, a beg. Don't stress yourself. We no be those people that do competition." "I know," she said quickly, But I like giving. It's how I express myself. George nodded, understanding in his eyes. Mercy's love was always loud in action, even if she spoke softly. She was the kind of girl who could split her last meat pie into two and still insist you take the bigger half. George squeezed her hand. Even if you give me only prayer, it's okay. Mercy laughed. God forbid. I must give you something. He smiled, but deep down George felt a pinch. He wanted to give Mercy something too. Something that said, I see how hard you try. I see how you carry life like it's light. But he had no extra money. And Mercy was also low. That night, Mercy reached home to find her mother coughing gently in the corner. The room smelled of menthol and exhaustion. Mummy, how you day? Mercy asked, kneeling. I day, my daughter, her mother replied, voice thin. How market? Mercy forced a smile. Small. God will do Later, while her mother slept, Mercy sat on her bed and opened her small wooden box under the mattress. She kept a few important things there. Her WAEC slip, a picture of her father, and one precious item she rarely touched. A delicate gold necklace. Her father had bought it for her on her 15th birthday. The chain was thin, and the pendant was small, but it carried weight in Mercy's heart. When she wore it, she felt her father's hand on her head. He felt safe. She lifted it now, letting it rest in her palm. Her throat tightened. It's Christmas, she told herself. George has loved me in seasons where I had nothing to offer. If love means giving, then I should give. But the necklace wasn't just jewelry. It was memory. Mercy stared at it until her eyes stung. Then she whispered into the quiet room. Daddy, I hope you understand. And in that moment, a decision began to form. Dangerous, tender, and full of sacrifice. She didn't know yet that George, somewhere else on Lagos Island, was also staring at his own precious possession, fighting a similar battle. Love was about to test them both. By the next morning, Mercy's heart was divided into two. One half of her was certain. George deserves something special. The other half was begging. Not the necklace. Not that one. She moved around the room like a person carrying a secret too heavy for her small frame. Even while brushing her teeth, even while heating water on the stove, the necklace kept flashing in her mind like a warning sign. Her mother, still recovering, watched her closely. Mercy, Mama Ifioma called from the bed. You know, sleep well. Mercy paused. Mummy, I sleep. Her mother gave a small, knowing smile. When your mind heavy, your eyes they talk. Mercy sat beside her mother and tried to swallow the lump in her throat. Mama Ifioma's hands were rough from years of sewing, but when she placed them on Mercy's cheek, they felt like silk. Is it George matter? Mercy's eyes widened. How you take no? Mama Ifioma chuckled softly, then coughed. My daughter, I know blind. The way you say his name alone. Like Ibi prayer. Mercy exhaled, then nodded slowly. Christmas is coming, Mummy. I want to buy him a gift. Something good. But money no day. Her mother sat up a little. So you want borrow? Mercy shook her head quickly. No, I no fit. We still get bills. Mama Ifioma stared at Mercy for a long time, then said gently, What are you thinking to do? Mercy couldn't answer. If she said it, it would become real. She just forced another smile and stood. I'm going out later. I'll be back. But her mother's eyes followed her like a quiet prayer. Mercy packed her hair accessories and went back to the walkway near Marina to sell. She tried to focus, smiling at customers, calling out prices, tying bows neatly, but the day moved slowly. People were buying, yes, but not enough. Everyone wanted to spend Christmas money on clothes, shoes, and food. By afternoon, Mercy counted her notes and coins again. Still not enough. She could buy George something small, something manageable. Belt. Simple shirt. But Mercy didn't want manageable. George had been her safety when life was messy. When her mother fell sick and she had to miss school, George brought food without asking. When Mercy cried over fees, George listened without making her feel weak. When people mocked her hustle, George called her hardworking like it was a title. He deserved something that would last. Mercy returned home earlier than usual, washed her hands, and opened the wooden box again. The necklace lay there like a sleeping memory. She picked it up and wore it once more, standing in front of their cracked mirror. The pendant sat perfectly on her chest, shining softly against her brown skin. She remembered her father's laughter as he clasped it around her neck years ago. "My Mercy," he had said, "this one is not just gold, it's reminder. Even when life hard, you're still my princess." Her breath shook. "Daddy," she whispered. "Life hard." Then she removed it carefully, as if taking it off could injure her heart. That evening, Mercy told her mother she was going to run an errand. Mama Ifioma nodded but looked uneasy. "Be careful," she said. Mercy walked through Lagos Island streets with the necklace hidden in a small cloth pouch. Her steps were slow at first, then faster, like she was trying to outrun her own emotions. She entered a small jewelry shop near Idemota, one of those places with glass displays, bright lights, and men who could smile while cheating you. The seller, a stocky man with quick eyes, looked up. "Sister, whatin you want?" Mercy's voice caught. I want to sell something." He leaned forward. "Bring am." Her fingers trembled as she unwrapped the cloth. The necklace appeared. The man's eyes narrowed. "This one fine. But small." "It's real gold," Mercy said quickly, panic rising. "My father bought it." The man shrugged. "Everybody papa buy. How much you want?" Mercy named a price that sounded like the value of her memories. The man laughed once. "Ah, you want kill person. Oya, sit down." He inspected it, weighed it, and then offered an amount that felt like insult. Mercy's heart sank. "Please. That one too small." The man sighed, then increased it slightly. "This is my last." Mercy stared at the necklace. This was her father. This was her childhood. This was the only thing she had that was purely hers. But then, she pictured George's face when he smiled at her with sincerity that money couldn't buy. Slowly, Mercy nodded. "Okay," she whispered. The man counted the notes, and just like that, her father's gift became paper. Mercy walked out of the shop feeling both lighter and emptier. She didn't stop moving until she reached a store with wristwatches. She chose a simple but classy one. Brown strap, clean face, solid metal. Something George could wear to work and feel confident. As the seller wrapped it, Mercy stared at the gift bag and tried not to cry. Because in her mind, she was telling herself something important. Love is not about keeping. Love is about giving. That night, Mercy returned home and placed the wrapped gift under her bed. Her mother noticed the missing necklace immediately. Her eyes didn't accuse. They just softened with understanding. "You sold it," Mama Ifioma said quietly. Mercy tried to speak but tears spilled instead. Her mother hugged her, holding her close. "My daughter, love is good. But make sure you know they use love to punish yourself." Mercy sniffed. "I'm not punishing myself, Mummy. I'm choosing him." Mama Ifioma sighed. "Okay. Just remember. The right person will never enjoy your sacrifice and still make you feel small." Mercy nodded, holding that sentence tightly like a second necklace. Across the island, George was also lying on his bed, staring at his own treasure. And he was about to make a choice that would break him too. George's room was small, but it held his dreams. A thin mattress on the floor. Plastic bucket for water. A small table with pencil sketches of buildings he hoped to design one day. And in the corner, leaning against the wall like a loyal friend, his guitar. It wasn't new. The wood was scratched, the strings had been changed too many times, and the sound wasn't perfect anymore. But George loved it like it had blood. That guitar had been his escape when his uncle's house felt cold. When his father disappeared, the guitar stayed. When his mother moved away, the guitar stayed. When he couldn't afford to eat lunch, he would play quietly and feel full with sound. And Mercy loved it too. Sometimes, during their lagoon-side dates, George would strum softly and Mercy would sing under her breath. Her voice wasn't trained, but it was honest. And George always said her honesty was the most beautiful part. Now he stared at it and felt his chest tighten. Christmas was close. Mercy loved giving gifts, George knew this. And he wanted to match her energy, not because of competition, but because he wanted her to feel cherished. But money was not cooperating. That week, his boss at the drafting firm had delayed payment again. "Next week," the man said, waving George away like he was a fly. George had begged politely. "Sir, it's Christmas period. Even transport." The man cut him off. "Young man, be grateful you even have something to do." George left the office with his head high but his stomach sinking. Back in his uncle's room. His uncle asked for contribution to fuel. George gave what he had. His uncle didn't ask if it would leave George empty. In that house, love didn't come with, "Are you okay?" So George did what he always did, kept quiet, planned carefully. And now, in the dim light of his room, he opened his small bag and counted money. Not enough. Not even close. He lay back and stared at the ceiling. What can I give Mercy that will feel like love? He thought of her mother, of Mercy's hustle, of the way Mercy always tried to carry the world gently even when it was heavy. He thought of how Mercy looked when she laughed, like a person who had finally found safety. George sat up. His eyes fell on the guitar again. He swallowed hard. "No," he whispered. But the thought didn't leave. Stayed. Grew. It became an answer. George grabbed his phone and scrolled through Mercy's old messages, voice notes, jokes, photos of scrunchies, pictures of their simple meals. Then he remembered something Mercy said once while scrolling through Instagram. "God, I like those classy purses. Imagine me carrying one. I will feel like a proper Lagos babe." George had laughed then. "One day you'll have plenty." Mercy had smiled. "Not one day. Me now. But it's expensive." George had pretended it was small talk, but he stored it in his mind. That's what love did. It stored your partner's little wishes like treasures. Now George knew what to get her. But to get it he would need to let go of the guitar. He sat with the decision all night, fighting himself. His fingers moved over the strings lightly, hearing the familiar sound, as if the guitar was begging him not to abandon it. At dawn, George stood, washed his face, and wrapped the guitar carefully in a cloth. "Forgive me," he murmured, voice breaking slightly. "I'll come back for you." He took it to a music shop on Lagos Island, one of those shops where they sold speakers, microphones, and instruments for churches and events. The owner looked up. "Ah, young man. You won buy." George shook his head. "I won sell." The owner inspected the guitar, plucked a few strings, then frowned. "This one old." "It still works well," George said quickly. "It has good sound." The owner shrugged. "How much?" George named a price, thinking of all the nights that guitar kept him company. The owner laughed. "A beg. No be new. You think say na broad." George's heart sank. He negotiated, begged quietly, reduced the price, then reduced again. Finally, the owner offered an amount that made George's throat burn. It was unfair, but it was something. George hesitated, fingers tightening on the guitar neck. The owner leaned back. "You want sell or you want carry 'em go?" George's mind flashed to Mercy. Her smile. Her sacrifices. Her patience. He nodded. "Okay." The money touched his palm, and immediately, George felt the silence where music used to live. He walked out without looking back, afraid if he looked back he would change his mind. With the money, he went straight to buy Mercy a beautiful leather purse, simple, elegant, and strong. Something she could use for years. Something that would make her feel seen. As the seller packaged it, George's eyes stung. This is love, he told himself. This is what love does. That evening, George met Mercy by the lagoon like they always did. He didn't mention the guitar. Mercy didn't mention her necklace. They laughed, shared a small shawarma, talked about the Christmas service they planned to attend, and watched the lights shimmer on the water. But there was something different between them. Something unspoken. Both of them were holding secrets shaped like sacrifice. Mercy looked at George and smiled softly. "You're quiet today." George forced a grin. "Just thinking." "About what?" George looked at her, eyes warm. "About the future. About how we'll be okay." Mercy leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder again. "You always say we'll be okay," she whispered. George kissed her forehead gently. "Because it's true." But in his heart, he was praying it would be true soon, because he had just traded his comfort for a gift. And Mercy. Mercy had also traded her memory. Christmas Day was coming. And love was about to reveal itself fully. Christmas morning arrived on Lagos Island like a song. Church bells rang in the distance. People wore their best clothes, as if dressing well could convince the year to be kind. Children ran about in new shoes they would soon outgrow. Traders smiled wider because money was finally moving. Mercy woke up early, washed carefully, and wore a simple red dress that made her glow. Her mother watched her with tired but proud eyes. "You look fine," Mama Ifioma said. Mercy smiled. "Thank you, Mummy." Her mother's gaze shifted to Mercy's neck bare. Mercy swallowed. Mama Ifioma didn't say anything. She just walked closer and adjusted Mercy's dress collar gently. "God go bless you," her mother whispered. Mercy hugged her mother tightly, then picked up the gift bag hidden under her bed and stepped out. Meanwhile, George dressed in his cleanest shirt, ironed with careful hands. His uncle had already left for a party, so the room felt unusually quiet. George stared at the corner where the guitar used to stand. The empty space looked like a wound. He picked up Mercy's gift bag, took a deep breath and walked out. They agreed to meet near the lagoon after Christmas service, at their usual spot. When Mercy arrived first, she stood there nervously, gift bag clutched tightly. "I hope he likes it," she thought. Then she saw him, George, walking toward her, tall and calm, with that familiar softness in his face. Mercy's heart lifted instantly. "Merry Christmas," she said, rushing into his arms. George hugged her tightly, breathing her in like home. "Merry Christmas, my Mercy." They pulled back and stared at each other, both smiling, both hiding fear. "Sit," George said. They sat side by side, and for a few minutes they just watched the water. Then Mercy blurted, "I got you something." George laughed. "Me too." Their hands moved at the same time, each bringing out a gift bag. They paused, then laughed again, shy, sweet laughter. "Open mine first," Mercy insisted. "No," George replied. "You first." They argued playfully until Mercy sighed. "Okay, I'll open yours." Mercy opened the purse packaging carefully. The moment she saw it, her face lit up like a child seeing fireworks. "George," she breathed. This is beautiful." George smiled, relief washing over him. "I remembered you like it." Mercy ran her fingers over the leather gently. "You bought this for me." George nodded, swallowing. "Yes." Mercy stared at him with so much gratitude that it almost hurt. Then she quickly handed him his gift. "Now open," she said. George opened the box and froze. A wristwatch. Simple. Classy. The kind of thing that made a young man look responsible and confident. The kind of gift that said, "I believe in you." His eyes widened. "Mercy." Mercy's smile trembled. "I wanted you to have something that will stay with you." George stared at the watch for a long time, then looked up slowly. Something struck him. "You're not wearing your necklace," he said gently. Mercy's heart skipped. She forced a laugh. "I just didn't feel like wearing it." George's eyes stayed steady. He knew Mercy. Mercy didn't just forget her necklace. That necklace was part of her. Mercy swallowed. And then Mercy noticed something too. "You didn't bring your guitar," she said quietly. "Normally you always bring it, especially on special days." George's smile faded a little. Silence fell between them, heavy and honest. Mercy's eyes filled with tears immediately. George looked away, jaw tightening. You? Mercy whispered. George, did you sell it? George exhaled like his body had been holding the truth hostage. Yes. Mercy's tears spilled. Why? George laughed softly, pained. To buy your gift. Mercy shook her head rapidly. No, George, no. George reached for her hands. Mercy, look at me. I wanted you to have something that would make you feel cared for. You always care for people. You deserve to feel it too. Mercy wiped her tears, voice trembling. George. I sold my necklace. George froze completely. The one my dad gave me, she added, crying harder now. I sold it to buy your watch. George's eyes watered. For a moment, both of them just stared at each other, shocked by the mirror of their love. Then George laughed, soft, helpless laughter mixed with tears. Mercy also laughed through her crying. See us, she sobbed. Two people weigh no get, still they give. George pulled her into a tight hug, holding her like he could protect her from every hardship in Lagos. This is why I love you, he whispered into her hair. You love with your whole heart. Mercy's voice broke. But now, you don't have your guitar. And I don't have my necklace. George leaned back and cupped her face. We may not have those things, but we have something more important. Mercy sniffed. What? George smiled gently. We have proof. Proof of what? Proof that our love is real, he said. Not because of what we can collect, but because of what we're willing to give. Mercy stared at him, her heart full. Then she did something simple. She removed the watch from the box and placed it on George's wrist herself, like a vow. George, in return, opened the purse again and carefully placed Mercy's old scrunchie inside it. So you don't forget where you started, he teased softly. Mercy laughed. As if I can forget. They sat there, holding each other, as Lagos Island celebrated around them. But in that small space by the lagoon, something holy happened. Two young people learned that love wasn't about abundance. It was about surrender. After Christmas, life didn't magically become easier. Lagos Island didn't suddenly gift Mercy a scholarship. George's boss didn't suddenly become kind. Their families didn't suddenly turn into perfect homes. But something changed inside Mercy and George. They had seen each other's hearts, and there was no going back. The week after Christmas, Mercy's mother noticed Mercy was quieter than usual. My daughter, Mama Ifioma asked one night. You're okay? Mercy nodded, smiling. I'm okay, Mummy. I'm just thinking. Thinking about the necklace. Mercy swallowed, then nodded. Yes. Sometimes my chest hurts when I remember. Mama Ifioma sighed and pulled Mercy close. Sacrifice can hurt. Even good sacrifice. Mercy's eyes glistened. But I don't regret loving George. Her mother held her face gently. Good. But let me tell you something important. Mercy listened. Unconditional love doesn't mean suffering without wisdom, Mama Ifioma said slowly. Love is not meant to destroy you. Should build you. It should grow you. Mercy nodded. George has never made me feel small. Good, her mother said. Then your sacrifice was not for a thief. It was for a partner. Across Lagos Island, George was also facing his own silence. At night, when he returned to his room, the empty guitar corner still stung. He missed the music. He missed the comfort. One evening, Mercy visited him. She stood in the doorway and glanced around. She noticed the emptiness immediately. George smiled weakly. You see, Mercy nodded, walking closer. I'm sorry. George shook his head. No, don't be sorry. I chose it. Mercy sat beside him, quiet for a while. Then she said softly, George, we can rebuild. George looked at her. We can buy another guitar, she continued. Maybe not now. Soon. And I can't get my father's exact necklace back, but I can build something new with his memory. I can keep him alive in other ways. George's eyes softened. You're strong. Mercy smiled. No. I'm loved. That sentence sat between them like a candle. Few days later, something unexpected happened. George's boss called him into the office. George entered with caution. In Lagos, when someone calls you suddenly, your heart prepares for bad news. But the boss cleared his throat awkwardly. "Young man, I've been watching your work," he said. "You're consistent. You're serious." George blinked. "Thank you, sir." The man scratched his chin. "I got a small project renovation design for a shop on the island. I need someone to draft it. If you do well, I can recommend you to someone bigger." George's heart jumped. "Yes, sir. I can do it." The boss nodded. "And your payment?" "I'll sort it." George left the office with his head spinning. That evening, he ran to Mercy with the news, finding her near her usual selling spot. "Mercy," he called, breathless. He turned, startled. "George. Wetin happen?" George laughed. "Good thing happen." When he told her, Mercy screamed and covered her mouth, eyes shining. "God," she whispered. "God did it." George held her hands and smiled. "We're entering a new season." Mercy nodded, tears forming. "Yes, yes." In the weeks that followed, George worked like a man with purpose. Mercy supported him, bringing food when she could, encouraging him, praying with him. And Mercy, inspired by what they experienced, began to save again, not just money but courage. One afternoon, she took her small wooden box and removed the picture of her father. She stared at it for a long time, then spoke aloud. "Daddy, I miss your necklace. But I think you would be proud that your daughter knows how to love." Her voice cracked. "And I promise you something. I will not stay poor forever. I will rise. Not because I want to prove anything to anybody, but because I want to honor you and also honor the love I have." By the end of January, George got paid for the project, and for the first time in a long time, the money in his hand didn't vanish instantly. The first thing he did wasn't to buy clothes. He didn't rush to show off. He went to Mercy. They met again by the lagoon, their sacred spot. George placed a small envelope in her hand. Mercy frowned. "What is this?" George smiled. "Open." Inside was money, not huge but meaningful. Mercy's eyes widened. "George, what is this for?" George leaned closer. "For school fees. For your dreams. Because love doesn't end at gifts. It continues in support." Mercy started crying immediately. "Ah, Mercy." George sighed, laughing softly. "You'll finish all your tears in this relationship." Mercy wiped her face. "I'm crying because I feel seen." George nodded. "Good. Because you are." Then Mercy did something that shocked him. She pulled out a small item from her purse. A notebook and pen. George blinked. "What are you doing?" Mercy sniffed. "We're going to write goals." George laughed. "Goals?" "Yes," Mercy insisted. "Because love is sweet, but we must build. We must plan. We must not only sacrifice, we must also grow." George stared at her with admiration. "You're serious?" "I'm Mercy," she replied, smiling. "Of course I'm serious." They sat there writing down plans. Savings. Cool. Pills. Small business ideas. How to help their mothers. How to avoid unnecessary pressure. How to love wisely. And in that moment, the lesson of their Christmas sacrifice became clear. True love is not proven by grand gifts or wealth. It is proven by sacrifice, sincerity, and support, and it becomes stronger when both people choose to build together, not just give until they're empty. Mercy sold her necklace. George sold his guitar. They lost precious things, but gained something rarer. A love that wasn't based on collecting, but on caring. And on Lagos Island, where many hearts loved for convenience, Mercy and George chose the harder love, the love that gives, grows, and stays. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, kindly give it a thumbs up, tell us what you think of the story and where you are watching from in the comment. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Bye for now.